Good morning. We will pay attention to bank reconciliation today. First of all, you must determine which month's books you are doing. Now, if we look at the bank reconciliation statement at 31st of May, and if we look at the cash receipts and cash payments, it is 30 June. That indicates to us that they are giving us the bank reconciliation statement that was completed the previous month so that we can see if those entries were completed in the current bank statement received for June. Because if they still didn't appear on the bank statement for June, you will have to show it again on the bank reconciliation statement at the end of June, because then the bank will do it in the future. First of all, in this bank reconciliation statement, we have to determine what is the bank account, because that bank balance is the balance that we will start our bank account with, because they don't give us the bank balance. So there's one of two methods they can do it. They either give you the bank balance at the beginning of the month, or they give you the bank reconciliation statement at the end of the previous month, and that means that you have to calculate what was the bank statement balance in the bank account so that you can start with it. Now, if we look at the cash receipts and cash payments journals, this is at the end of the month. So the last time that we recorded anything in our bank account was on the 31st of May. So we must determine this opening balance. You can either do it by adding and subtracting, as I did in this calculation, or you can say there's a bank balance on the debit side of 685. Outstanding deposit in the books of the bank is on the credit side 920. Then there's outstanding checks 100, 105, 280, and 90. And then there's incorrect deposit that must be debited. So it means the 140 must also be on the debit side. Then I will add and subtract the two totals from each other to determine what is the closing balance. And that will be the balance that we will start in our bank account at the beginning of May. According to that balance, we have a credit balance in the bank of 480. That means the end of the previous month, we had a bank overdraft and we actually owe the money to the bank at the beginning of the month. Then they give us the totals in the cash receipts journal and in the cash payments journal. So we will have to open a cash receipts and cash payments journal with these totals. That is where we stopped recording at the end of the month, and then we will complete entries in the subsidiary journals for all the additional information, so entries that were not completed or correction of errors. In the cash receipts journal, we will start with the totals that was provided, and in the cash payments journal, we will start with the totals that was provided at the end of the month. So that's where we stopped, and now we continue from that totals. On 30 June, that's the last day of our current month, the bank statement showed a credit balance of 3358. So according to the bank statement, this is where they stopped the 3358. So we will record this in the bank reconciliation statement so that we can show that we have to carry on in the bank reconciliation statement with the additional entries where the bank stopped. Okay, that was a credit balance. So it means we start with a credit balance in the bank reconciliation statement. What's very important to remember is that our bank increases on the debit side and decrease on the credit side. So we will have deposits on the debit side and checks on the credit side. In the bank statement that we receive from the bank according to the account in their books, they will increase on the credit side and decrease on the debit side because they treat the business as a liability. They have to give us our money back in the future. So if we record deposits on the debit side, they will record the deposits on the credit side. We record checks on the credit side, and they will record checks on the debit side. A fixed deposit with ABSA for 6,000 Rand matured, and the amount plus the interest for 6 months at 6% per annum was deposited directly into the bank account. So the bank already recorded this entry. We can only record the entry now when we see the figures on our bank statement. If a fixed deposit matures, it means the time that we invested the money expired, and they will pay the money back into our normal current account. So in our cash receipts journal, we will indicate that we seen the information on the bank statement. 6,000 times 6% for 6 months will give me 180 Rand. So they recorded 6,180 in my bank, and I will split it and show that 6,000 will be recorded in the fixed deposit account on the credit side, and 180 will be recorded on the interest on fixed deposit account on the credit side. A check received for 400 from H. Stein for cash sales was returned by the bank due to insufficient funds. We can't cancel the sales because these people already use these articles that they bought. So we have to cancel the check that we received from H. Stein. So we can't show that sales decrease. What we will have to do is create an account for H. Stein. So we will create an asset because we create him as a debtor. This check was recorded in the cash receipts journal when we received the money. So if we want to cancel the check, we will cancel it in the cash payments journal. And we will record this entry as H. Stein RD check referred to drawer. That means the bank returned this check to us, and it can either be due to insufficient funds or any other reason, like a torn check, no signature, incorrect date, and they return the check. So we will show that we've got 400 Rand less in the bank and that debtors owe us an additional 400 Rand. A stop order for 80 Rand appeared on the bank statement. This was a payment made to Sanlam for insurance premium of 80 Rand. The monthly installment is called a premium, but our ledger account will only be called insurance. A stop order is instruction to the bank to pay out 80 Rand every month on behalf of the business to Sanlam. So it's basically like a check, money paid out of the bank account, so we will record this entry in our cash payments journal. And we will indicate that a stop order was used to pay Sanlam. The amount in the bank decreases with 80. The expense for insurance will increase with 80. Check number 535 and check number 538 did not appear on the bank statement. So it's checks that we issued that must still be paid out by the bank in the future, and any transactions that the bank will record in the future, we will record in the bank reconciliation statement. Bank reconciliation statement, we will show that these two checks must still be paid in the future, the 81 Rand and the 110 Rand, And when the bank will pay out the money in the future, they will show it on the debit side of the bank statement because they decrease our account on the debit side, and therefore we record it on the debit side. Due to the fact that merchandise was damaged, the payment of cheque number 540 for 100 Rand in favour of Olivetti Limited was stopped. So if we don't want the bank to pay out a cheque, we can fill in a form at the bank to stop this cheque. The reason can be that the cheque was lost in the post, or it can be, as in this case, where the merchandise was damaged, so we don't want to pay them. When we issued the cheque, we recorded it in the cash payments journal. So if we want to cancel the cheque, we will record it in the cash receipts journal. So we will indicate that we cancel this cheque for 100, so we have more money in the bank, and we owe this 100 to the creditors, and we will sort out the problem with the creditors and then decide later if we want to issue a new cheque to them. A deposit for 2,500 did not appear on the bank statement, so the bank normally closes their books before the end of the month, so they will record this deposit at the beginning of the next month. Any entry that the bank will record in the future will appear on the bank reconciliation statement. We will therefore show that there's an outstanding deposit that they have to record in the future for 2,500. We show deposits on the debit side, and they will record deposits on the credit side. Cheque 541 that was issued to Prieto for rent was lost in the post. This cheque must be cancelled and a new cheque must be issued. When we originally issued this cheque, we recorded it in the cash payments journal. So to cancel the cheque, we will record it in the cash receipts journal. The new cheque will be recorded in the cash payments journal. So the first entry will be to cancel the old cheque. So we will show that this cheque was cancelled. So we have 400 Rand more in the bank, and we reduce the expense for rent because we have to cancel the original entry that appeared in the rent account and bank account. Then when we issue the new cheque, we will show that this new cheque replaces the old cheque, and now we take 400 out of the bank and we increase the expense for rent again with 400 Rand. We just issued the cheque now. It was not deposited in the bank yet, so it's still an outstanding cheque. So it's very important to remember that when a cheque is cancelled and a new cheque is written out, that your first step will be to cancel the cheque in the cash receipts journal. The second step will be to issue a new cheque in the cash payments journal. And the third step would be to record this entry in your bank reconciliation statement and show that the bank will pay out this money in the future. When we look at this question, you will realize that there's some of the entries that are already recorded before the time because it is too long to do it in the recording if we do all the transactions. So some of the transactions I didn't explain and it's not in the question, but it is recorded. So please just pay attention to the ones that I explained in this exercise. Then we will transfer the total out of our cash receipts journal to the bank on the debit side, and we will transfer the balance and the totals in the cash payments journal to the bank on the credit side. We will determine the balance in the bank account, so we will show that there's a debit balance, favorable balance, and that balance will go on the debit side of your bank reconciliation statement.